another as human beings and continue to support, justice being served.
Welcome back into First Take, and I just want to clear something up from our last conversation. Mark Davis and the tweet that he put out, "I can breathe," with the date 4/20/21. He was asked if he was aware of the Eric Garner situation, and he said he was not, and he was not aware that people were wearing "I can't breathe" t-shirts after. He said it's a learning moment, and he has more research to do. So I just want to make sure to put that out there with Raiders owner Mark Davis. But joining us now is renowned director and filmmaker Spike Lee. Spike, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Always an honor to have you, sir, and bringing a little levity to a heavy day with your Knicks gear, at least in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to the game tonight.
I'll start initially. Good. Glad to hear. Staying loyal, staying consistent. What was your initial reaction to the verdict, Spike?
Well, as a sports fan, I've come to learn that you can't do your end zone dance, so I did not know where it was going to go. I was hoping the verdict turned out the way it did, but I think that we cannot forget about it's up to the judge for the sentencing, so it's not over. And then I found out this morning about a young sister. Her name is Makia Bryant, 16 years old, and I'm going to say it, was murdered by the police in Columbus, Ohio, a short time before the verdict came down in Minneapolis. So what does that tell us? The continuation of the attacks on black and brown bodies in this United States of America. Yesterday. So I think a lot of people like myself did not know about this, what happened yesterday in Columbus, Ohio. 16 years old. Now the report is she had a knife and was in a beef with two other women. But what is a taser for? I mean, they got it all mixed up. When they're supposed to use a taser, they use a gun instead.
And then they use a gun and swear that they thought it was a taser. So don't get me started with that. But I'll
it's different. One's black, one's yellow. You're supposed to put the taser on your side that's not dominant, and the Glock, whatever, is on the side you're dominant. So that whole, it's crazy.
I started off the show, Spike, bringing attention. I always appreciate you on the show, bro. I started off the show.
Anytime.
I started off the show by saying I appreciate people who feel good that the guilty verdicts came in, but I'm not in a celebratory mood. Number one, because George Floyd is dead. He ain't coming back. He doesn't get to hang with his family, spend time with everybody, his loved ones and all that stuff. But number two, the discretion of the judge is what I'm paying attention to. Because since the sentences is a state crime, not federal, and the sentences are scheduled to be served concurrently as opposed to consecutively, it all gets lumped in as one crime. So basically you're instead of getting the 40 and the 25 and the 10 years, which adds up to 75 years, the prosecution has to go for the stiffest penalty imaginable, which is only 40 years. Since it's up to the discretion of the judge, he can easily make it 20 because, again, this police officer didn't have a criminal record. And in the state of Minnesota, those who usually don't find themselves in that situation. And then even then, of the 20 years, you only have to serve about 2/3, which comes up to about 12 and a half. This dude can end up out of jail in the next decade if this judge doesn't bring down the hammer. So that's where my focus lies. Where does your focus lie, Spike? Where does your focus lie?
My brother, I think I said that in the opening that I'm not doing any end zone dance. And I said that the judge is going to be the sole person to determine the length of the sentence. So I agree with you that this thing is not over. And also, like you said, he's not going to be able to see his daughter grow up. High school graduation, college, walk his daughter down the aisle. You know, it's gone. And we're this country's in bad shape. But I love the speech by the president and the vice president post verdict yesterday, and I just hope that we got to get this thing. We got to get it right, and it's not going to take overnight. This is like 400 years of this, plus 400 years, and we just gotta, keep fighting the good fight.
Spike, I just mentioned to our previous guest, Howard Bryant, that we're a sports network, so a lot of times we try to shoehorn sports into this stuff. But in this case, athletes, especially African-American athletes, really did take a leadership role and seem to bring about change. The protests in the streets, they didn't play a game after another incident and were told to shut up. LeBron was told to shut up and dribble, but he didn't. And it doesn't escape my attention that in the 60s and 70s, there were athletes like Muhammad Ali and Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown and others who took that kind of role during a time of great social upheaval and change. And today,
I think
we're seeing
add Kurt Flood to that too.
A similar thing.
Let's add Kurt Flood.
What's that?
Add Kurt Flood.
So I'm just curious about certainly Kurt Flood. All these athletes are getting paid because of Kurt Flood.
Yes.
So your impression of the kind of leadership role that LeBron James and other high-profile athletes, including athletes in the WNBA, have taken, that has, whether or not this marks some kind of watershed moment for change and progress, but it did result, at least in this case, in a just verdict.
Yes, and I got to give love to my brother LeBron, who took the lead. And I think that we're in a different era. This is people who grew up with hip hop, grew up with, Public Enemy and others. So they're less fearful than the athletes in the other generations, and they're not going to take it. And the NBA, I think, is much more progressive than the other leagues, especially the NFL, the No Freedom League. It's no coincidence. I got my man Colin, behind me. So they're discovering that they have power, they have a voice, and they're going to utilize it. And I love it. I love it. I love it. And I applaud them. Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Is there anything specific that you think the sports world, the athletes in particular, should do from here? I only ask that question because for me, what I think about, Spike, is the fact that when you have the leagues, meaning the owners, the respective commissioners, etc., collaborating with you to make change, obviously because they recognize your cachet and your impact as professional athletes in this day and age. So considering that, I'm thinking they can continue to march forward and try to manipulate a legislation to some degree, just like lobbyists do on Capitol Hill. What specifically do you think they should do going from here, moving forward?
Well, I think that one thing they can do is really put the efforts and support for this George Floyd bill to get by. And another thing, and all I want to say, I want to thank you guys for reaching out. Anytime you want me to speak, if I'm available, I'm going to do it. I think, and Dwayne Wade and guys buying pieces of stock, ownership. Let's get one of my favorite musicals, Hamilton. You got to be in the room. If we're not in the room, it's not a good look. So ownership. If you're in the room, you got to say.
Can I say this before we end this segment, everybody? I appreciate Max, Molly, I appreciate Spike bringing that up because it did not escape